It doesn't have to be a massive, like, move across the country and change your career like I did. That's scary for some people. Everybody's like, oh my God, that's so scary. How'd you do that? And I was like, whatever, it was fine. I was like, bye, I'm out.
Hi, I'm Cheryl Medeiros.
And I'm Colleen Hungerford. And this is We're Doing This Right, right? A podcast for the whole woman, mind, body, soul, and business.
It's humor infused, as real as it gets, inspiring, and you'll walk away with real usable tools for life and business.
If you love what you're hearing, please share with a friend, subscribe so you'll never miss an episode, and rate and review whenever you listen.
So find your earbuds, lace up your walking shoes, or cozy up with a beverage of your choice. It's time to dig in. Oh my gosh. We're doing it. We're doing this right. Right, Colleen?
Yeah, we're doing it right. And if we're not, it's okay. We'll just figure it out.
Just wing it.
Just swinging it.
Welcome back, everyone.
Yeah, welcome
it's just
back.
Me and Colleen today.
I love it. I love our guests, but I also love just hanging with you.
I know, I like hanging with you. So this is my last day of a 2-week spring break with my children. So I didn't do anything fun like go to Paris.
Yeah.
What about you?
I did. I went to Paris and it was amazing. I took my daughter for her 10th birthday and we went and visited my sister and my nephew who live there now. So that was amazing. And it was nice to just have some like one-on-one time with one kid, like, because that just doesn't happen very often. And, she's 10 now, so it's just like easier to travel, older, but listen, 7 days, 8 days in Europe with a child, even a really awesome one, is hard. It was just like a lot of walking and, just like a lot, like we wanted to show her everything. And she at one point was like, I don't care. I was like, we were like, her name is Vivian, for those that don't know. And so we're like, oh, let's go to the Galeries Vivienne and, we'll go. And it's like just an area that has shops and it's beautiful and whatever. But she was like, no, I'm tired. I don't really care. Which I get it. Like to do a 25-minute to 30-minute walk to go and just like see some shops that you're not going to buy anything at and then walk back. Like for a 10-year-old, she was like, not interested. But we went to Versailles and she loved it. We didn't even go inside. We just like did the gardens because the palace was closed because it was a Monday and it was fabulous. That being said, we came back and my husband took the boys to Colorado and they had a fabulous time. But then we came back and it's like he just like pieced out to work. And I'm like, I also had to work, but then they're here and I'm like, okay.
I feel that.
We're just doing it.
I feel that. Yeah, we are still au pairless. And so there was a lot of mom duty.
Mm-hmm.
I think I was texting you yesterday. My kids are so annoying. Like I just am like, go back to school. Go.
2 weeks is so long.
Go. It's really long. And thankfully I had help 3 days the first week. So I was able to go to work. And then the second week my mom was here. So I had help 3.5 days. But I feel bad for my mom because 3 kids is a lot. And
it's a lot.
I can see them wipe her out. So I was not working like full days or it's fine.
I think the hard part of that is that it's just like when and I think you had talked about this in one of our calls recently, like when you're trying to work and they're home, your attention is split and you're not you, but yeah, you're just not good at anything at that point, right? Like
nothing's getting your full attention and everything sucks.
Everything sucks and it's so frustrating. And to send one email, it's like, somebody wants a snack or somebody needs help with the thing or, whatever. And you're just like, I've been there. It sucks. It's not awesome.
Yeah, that's exactly. I was trying to send one email one afternoon. I had at least 2, maybe 3 of them in my bed with me. I have this desk bed that or bed desk that I just love. If you I I'm still in high school. I still want to do my homework in bed. So I
I
got
love it.
myself a desk and I love it. So I'm just sitting there trying to like type one email out and Emmy's kicking the desk and the desk's shaking and like nobody's quiet and I can't get through a full thought. I'm like, oh, this is so frustrating. But how lucky am I?
I
How
know.
fortunate am I that I get to spend all this time with my kids
Yeah.
and I get to have a career that is flexible. And that might be the perfect segue into career change, which is what we were thinking we'd
Yeah.
talk about today.
Yeah. I 100% agree. And this has to do with this, like I chose to leave a job in 2018 to start my own business. But to your point of like being able to have the flexibility is a weird word, but like when I was on my way to the airport, I had clients who were like, we want to write an offer. And I put this in my stories. Like, I am so grateful for this job, right? Like, here I get to be like in the airport with my daughter on our way to Paris and being able to do my work. Like, sometimes that feels really frustrating, but sometimes that feels like a real privilege to be able to like do this anywhere and for the most part. So it's just sometimes where your mindset is or where your emotions are at that point. Like some people might have found that really frustrating. And I was like, I this is great. Like I can work and be here with her and I would have just been sitting at the airport anyway. So
That's funny because 2 Wednesdays ago, I think it was, I had with the no au pair, my current schedule is I don't have childcare on Wednesdays.
mhm,
And I when school is in, I only have June, the 3-year-old. And, she's fine. She's cool. She's fun to hang with. So
yeah.
it's normally fine. And I can like put on a show and do a little bit of work here and there. And my goal was just, I'm not going to really schedule appointments for Wednesdays. Well, I'm also just getting used to that. And of course, scheduled several showings the first Wednesday that it was like
Yeah.
this.
Yeah.
It's like, shit. So I brought her and she did really good. And thankfully, clients are like, they understand. The clients we're working with right now that I was showing property that day, they had 3 daughters. So,
Mhm.
they totally get it. And she did really good. And then last minute, they wanted to see a property again that we thought
Oh,
would be off the market before they could offer on it. And it turned out that it hadn't gone off the market yet. And so we went and looked at it again, and it's like 3 p.m. and June hasn't napped. And
yeah.
they're like, "Yeah, we want to put in an offer." I'm like, "Okay, let me call the agent, but I'm gonna have to do this from the car because I have to pick up my other girls at 3:45." And then we had a webinar at 4 that day that we were leading,
Yep. Oh
the
my
Inspired
God.
Connection webinar. And so I'm like calling the agent from the car with June in the back seat, who's like melting down because she hasn't slept yet today. And I'm
Yeah.
going to get the girls. And the agent's telling us, "Well, I need your offer by 5." And I'm like, "Well, that's just actually not physically possible at this point. But it's not going to happen. Might be able to swing 6." And thank God I have a business partner
Yeah.
that also is juggling things, but like we're able to like, I'm like, "Okay, you start this and then we'll do a call after and review it with the clients." And because also we don't want to like rush and make a mistake on
Yeah.
a contract. Like
Right.
it is my job to be the professional here and do this right. So I'm rushing all over, just juggling, 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 finish the webinar, get on the phone with the client, my business partner, pound out the rest of the offer, send it over, get it signed, get it to the agent. And then I'm just like, "Oh, I'm supposed to go on a date with my husband tonight." Like the babysitter arrived as I had like sent the email. I was like, "Oh, hey, could have used you an hour ago."
Yeah.
'Cause
Oh
it's
my
like dinner
God.
time. I've been ignoring the kids for an hour. I'm like, dear God, Alex comes in the phone. He's on the phone for like 45 minutes with the controller from work, walking around the house. We have a babysitter we're paying that we're not using yet. I'm laying on the bed just like, like comatose coming down from the day. And that's the thing about like the flexibility. Then the next night, we're waiting for the results of the offer while I'm at Bunko. And so I'm obsessively like checking my phone and refreshing my phone. And it's like, it's such a double edged sword because
Yeah.
like I was able to do all those things with my kids that I needed to do in that time. And I
Yeah.
was able to be at Bunko while I was
Yeah.
working.
Right.
And I was not able to be fully present for anything.
Yeah. And this is that like entrepreneur life that some people are love and are built for, and some people
Mhm.
they are going to be hearing this going, well, that sounds awful.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like, but I was never the person. So my career path started in high school, which is like such a stupid place to make a decision about what you're going to do for the next part of your huge chunk of your life. But I really fell in love with sports medicine and athletic training. And that was what I was good at, and it was easy for me. And we had a program in my high school. So when I started applying to colleges, that's what I thought that I wanted to do. And I was like, great, this is great. I can do this in college. I can help people. I get to be around sports. I love sports. Like it's really rewarding, blah, blah, blah. And so I did that. And I got my master's in sports medicine. I was a certified athletic trainer for 13 years. And then I worked as an athletic director, and I was like, okay, but it was really interesting because one, I had chosen this path at 16 or 17, which is like no decision we made at that point was a good one, you know,
That's the truth.
and I am first generation college graduate. So I didn't have anybody really in my life who had any experience on selecting a college or where I should go. Like I had a college guidance counselor at school, but she didn't really. It wasn't like how they are now, where they're like super helpful, and so it's just such a stupid thing, in my opinion, to make children decide at that point in their life. Anyway, so I went on this career path and I loved it, but then once I started having like literally once I started having kids, I was like, when Vivian was a baby, it kind of worked out because I got to be with her half the day and then I went to work at like 1. And so I had a nanny from like 1 until my husband got home at 5 or 6 or whatever. And that was fine. That worked out fine. But then as she got older and then as I had Everett, like I really quickly decided that this wasn't going to work for me. And that's when I went into sports administration, like when I went into being an athletic director, and I was like, oh yeah, this will be better. It turns out it was worse because it was more hours and more responsibility and more money and really prestigious. But I felt so stuck. And I think a lot of people feel this, like when you've invested so much time in a career and invested so much money, like I had to take out student loans and, I went to graduate school and I had really proclaimed that this is what I loved and what I wanted to do. I always felt like there was a lot of pressure or responsibility to keep doing it. And I probably did it longer because of that, right? Because there's always this idea of like, well, I said I was going to do this, or, everybody thinks that this is what I should be doing or whatever. But it wasn't until I got pregnant with Jackson that I really made the decision that this was like not good. And there was various things that happened during that career, like some kind of like toxic people and like toxic environments where you're just like, I'm not really interested in I was appointed an interim athletic director position at a fairly young age, and I had just had Everett, and so I was really trying to prove myself because nobody in the department wanted me to have that position. They literally told me to my face, like, you didn't deserve this. And I was like, okay, cool, well,
How sweet.
somebody thought I did because here I am, you know. But I was leaving the house, and I was also postpartum, so I was like really like, oh my god, I gotta lose weight, and I gotta do. So I was getting up in the morning, leaving my house at 5. I had a 45-minute commute. I was coming to work. I was working out for an hour at work, and then by 7 o'clock, my phone started ringing. My emails started shooting off from parents and other administrators and people. And then I would be at school all the way until the last sporting event, last game, which would be 9, 10 o'clock. And then I had a 45-minute drive home. So, and I was nursing. And so I was pumping 4 to 5 times a day at work. Like I had to put it on my calendar, like to go and pump. And meanwhile, I had a baby at home and a toddler. And thankfully, my mom lived with us at that time. Otherwise, that would have been impossible. But I just got to the point where I was like, never seeing my kids. Like, why did I have them if I never saw them? And then, so I guess the point of this long story and talking about like career change is like, sometimes it takes that pivotal moment of like a change in your life or a change or whatever. We've talked about this before, like how babies or maternity leaves gives you that opportunity as a woman and sometimes a man to reflect on what you want. But as I was like pregnant with Jackson, I was like, I can't, I not I can't, because I could have continued to do what I was doing. But I literally said, I refuse. Like, I refuse to do this anymore. I can do it, but I'm making a choice that this is not how I want to live my life. And I think that is a really tough decision. And not everybody gets the privilege to make that decision. And not everybody gets a partner who was a supportive and, I know you and I have talked about like how that went with you and Alex. But I just said to David straight in the face, I said, I refuse to do this anymore. I'm not going back after my maternity leave. And he was just like, okay. And he just said, okay. Like, and then I was so thankful for that. But then we had to figure out what that meant, because now we had 3 kids, or we were going to have 3 kids and 1 salary. And I was making really good money. So it was basically like cutting my salary in half, or cutting our income in half. But it was the right thing. And in that, we talk about Jackson being the game changer. That's what we call him, as the game changer. He changed our life in so many ways, and he changed my career. And it was really impactful and empowering, but also terrifying and
Yeah,
scary.
it's really scary. So
Yeah.
scary to make a career change. I want to touch on a few reasons why people make career changes.
Yeah.
This is from apollotechnical.com. It's a career change website. Some of the reasons people make changes: a salary increase. So that's like, you see that a lot, like the people hopping from job to job to
Yeah. Yep.
climb that ladder. Philosophy and goals are changing.
Mm-hmm.
So I totally can relate with that. Leadership at a current company is unsatisfactory.
Yep.
Hello, that's why I left.
Yep.
Number one reason I left my career. Having greater flexibility in work. And that's that flexibility where it's like I could bring my kid
Yeah.
to with me, but it's hard. It's not easy, but it is a reason.
That's an interesting thing that a lot of people associate flexibility with ease, and flexibility is not easy. And I think when
Mm-mm.
people are like, well, I want a flexible schedule, and they think in their mind that that's going to be really easy. And flexible does, like, per the definition, does not mean easy, right? Like, flexible
Mm-mm.
means like you can kind of move and change and do things, which is fine. But that means being flexible, or having a flexible schedule means you can bring your kid to your showing, or you can do the work at the airport or whatever. It doesn't mean
And
that.
you can be up till 10, 11, 12 at night, in bed
Yeah.
working
Yeah.
and work on the weekends and like
Yep.
write an offer on Easter and
All of it.
like all the things. All the
You can
things.
be like, I remember 2 years ago or a year ago, I was in Paris. I was literally in Paris for my 40th birthday again, in Versailles, like on the phone in the train station being like, congratulations, your offer got accepted. Like, that's flexibility, but that doesn't mean easy. Anyway, go on. I
Yeah,
just thought that
flexibility
was
is not
important.
easy. And then the last thing it references is unsatisfied in the current career.
Mm-hmm.
And then this is interesting. The common misconception that people who want to change their career field are lazy, unmotivated, or unappreciative. This couldn't be further from the truth. The reality
Oh,
is people who make a career change are doing it because they don't have job satisfaction. They may feel a need to do something different with their life. And I want to touch on that because if you're not feeling satisfied in your job, you're probably not working to your highest level. That doesn't
correct.
mean you're lazy. It just
No.
means you're uninspired, you're unmotivated. And I remember towards the end of my career when I was in commercial insurance, I took on this side hustle with Rachel, my current business partner, helping people optimize and start up their short-term rental businesses. And it was like finally passion. Like I was excited about something. Like I didn't mind staying up till 10 o'clock at night
Yeah.
working. I didn't like it was so fun for me. The kitty's here.
Yeah.
Watch out, you guys. We have a new kitten and she's gonna be a part of the podcast today.
I love it.
So
Welcome, Cheddar.
if you're on YouTube, because we're on YouTube, this is Cheddar.
Oh my
She's
God,
really
she's
cute.
so cute.
Can you hear her purring? So yeah, that like finally like lit my soul up and made me feel excited to want to do something again where I was so burned out on insurance
Yeah.
and with my company that I just was uninspired at work and they weren't getting the best of me, that's for sure.
You know what? One of the things they talked about in there is like changing for financial reasons or like pay raise. And, you know, it's really interesting that that takes a certain person to be able to do that, right? Like I look at, so my husband, who is really a diligent worker and he's very good at what he does, he's very loyal. And we watched, so he stayed with his company, the company he was with for 13 years. It was the company he started working for right out of college as an intern in college and then got hired on. It was a great company. But we watched people leave, like his colleagues leave, and then come back and make that uh, corporate climb or financial climb that he didn't do. And some of that was because he was afraid. Some of that was because of his loyalty. He didn't want to seem like he was jumping ship or whatever. But that's things that are like ingrained in some people where they're like, well, if I leave, I'm bad. Or if I'm leaving just to get more money, then I'm bad. And I think that's something that each person needs to address because like you just shouldn't stay in a job if you're unhappy and I don't know that he was particularly unhappy, but it's like he wasn't. But are there opportunities to grow? Like were there opportunities that he missed growth wise?
Well, and those people that left and then came back, they experienced something different and they brought more back to the company, which
Yeah,
is what increased their value for the company. Like
right.
that is valuable as well. So the average career length, according to this article, is 13 years and 2 months. So
Oh,
David was very
interesting.
average
Yeah,
in
and
that.
so was I as far as my sports medicine career.
I
But
was 12 years.
yeah, but and then you know what that is though, is that's if you think about that, that's like coming right out of college, getting a job, and then getting into your mid 30s and realizing like, oh, I made this
This
decision at
isn't
18
working.
or 20 or 22 and your life
Mhm.
changes at that point, right? Like you're maybe getting married, you're maybe having children at that point, like your peers are doing different things in their life. I think more recently, like we grew up, at least in our parents and their parents had jobs. You had like one company that you worked for, you know, like my in-laws, my father-in-law has worked for the same airline for like a billion years. Now that airline changed because it used to be like Pan Am, which doesn't exist anymore, right? But it's the same company, right? And then my mother-in-law has worked at the same school that she went to, that her kids went to, you know, but you start to see it with our generation or maybe even just a little bit older where people are more dynamic in their careers and that idea of explain all these changes as we were coming up it would be like explain these changes in your resume like and that was a bad thing like that you had changed so many times but now that I don't think that that's a thing anymore. You know, like people being dynamic in their careers and having different experiences is not looked at or framed the same way it was 20 years ago. You know, it's giving
Mhm.
people more of an opportunity to like make these career changes. And I think for people kind of at our age, like I'm now 41 and you're still in your 30s, but that is tough because we fall in between that gap, right? Of the older generation that worked for one company and this younger generation that moves every 3-4 years, 2 years or whatever. But I will just say making a career change is super hard, but it was the best thing I ever did. And the trajectory in which it took me was phenomenal.
The idea that you just said about explain these changes in an interview, and I'm thinking to myself, "I'm never gonna have a job interview again. Will
I know.
never work for
No.
anybody but me
Mm-mm.
ever again."
I
And
know.
when
I've
I
got.
was at the end of when I was at
Okay.
the end of my career with my insurance job, the manager, it was sales, so it was like quota, 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 and if you don't hit that quota, you're always on the chopping block, and it was no longer fun. And my manager, who was toxic, and I see you next Tuesday, she called me one day and she's like, "Are you gonna get this done? Are you gonna get this done?" Giving me the pressure, and I'm like, "I'll tell you what, I'll bet on myself 100% of the time." And you know what I did in a couple weeks? Resigned and bet on myself for the rest of my life. Like,
Yes.
I'm done. I don't wanna chase your goal anymore. Your
Yeah.
goal doesn't serve me. Your goal puts me in a position to and this is sales, and I when I first started sales, I was like, "I'll never have ethical dilemmas." Like, it's easy to make the right choice, but when you have this quota and this management breathing down your throat so you can keep your job, and there's this one way you could do things that would get you a little bit more bang for your buck and, like, get
Hmm.
everybody off your back, but maybe it's not the exact right thing for your clients. I started to see where those things happen and where that was actually the culture of the company to push those things. Like, that whole Wells Fargo thing that happened years ago where, like, they had some incentive where they were like, I think they were trying to open new mortgages or trying to open new accounts, and, like, this whole scandal came down,
Yeah.
and like, it really shook up the industry. Well, that's, like, so common in every sales position. Like,
Yeah.
somebody finds a way to skirt around something that's, like, not really hurting anybody, but maybe not in the real best interest, and it's like, I had no idea that that would be presented so many times in my career,
Yeah.
and that is one of the catalysts for change was I don't want to work for the company and be moving the company's agenda forward. I
Yeah.
want to work for clients. I want to work for these people that I'm, like, in the trenches with every day, and I want to do what's right for them,
Right.
not for what's right for the company. So that's why in real estate this is perfect because my employer is my client. I am working directly for you and your best needs.
Yeah.
And I that makes me feel so good, and the lines of, like, what's ethical and what's not are very clear in this role, and I
Well,
value that tremendously.
yes and no, and like not to talk about the NAR settlement, but to talk about the NAR settlement, like that is there was in my opinion, and remember that this settlement came out of 3 states only, right? It
And
was
it's not
Missouri.
final. It has not been approved by a judge yet, so this is all still
Yes,
not done.
still not clear. But there is opportunity in real estate for for the realtor, for the real estate agent to have their best interest in mind. Now, that is not we have a fiduciary responsibility which people don't really understand, and I don't even know that all real estate agents fully understand that, but like we're supposed to put our needs second to our clients, like our clients' needs and financial responsibility to them is supposed to be higher than ours. So like, if our clients are like, my budget's 800, you know, there are agents who will be like, oh, but you could stretch it a little bit to 900. Like it's only a couple dollars per month, X, Y, and Z. That's not putting your client's best interest in mind. And so there it takes such a specific person. I think that's the point that I'm trying to say. Like it takes a really specific person to make these types of entrepreneurial career changes. Like we could talk about career change and moving to different companies, and that's hard too. But when you're leaving a more corporate or more regulated or salary based job or and then moving to an entrepreneurial job, like to really succeed and really do well and really do it in an ethical and you know responsible way takes a certain person, and it's not for everybody. And I think that that is just something to evaluate, and I think that's why people get scared about making that jump, because you can, especially in sales, right? Like it can happen. It's hard not to do that. Anyway,
Well,
okay.
and that lawsuit really stemmed from agents not clearly communicating how they were being paid, and letting people know that the commissions that are being paid to realtors is negotiable, which it
It
has always
always
been
has
negotiable.
been. Yeah, it always
So
has been.
the media is doing so much clickbait and not doing our industry any service, and it's sad.
Yeah.
And ethical, moral, good agents should have been explaining this correctly all along.
Mhm.
And that's a really great change that'll come out of this,
Yeah,
is
I
that
mean,
it will be explained and people will understand. I mean, that was part of my buyer consultation, that was part of my selling consultation. Like, I have a expected cost of this sale, expected cost of this purchase, and in that my entire career it has said, like, I am paid off a percentage. Typically this is paid by the, if I'm representing a buyer, typically this is paid by the seller. Now, and typically, when I'm doing for a seller, like, you're going to pay my commission and the buyer's agent commission. Typically, you have options on what that amount is. That's
right.
part of every negotiation I've ever done in this job. So shame on those people that weren't doing it correctly, or, it was just the old way of doing things maybe.
Or
And that's going to change.
uneducated.
And that's great.
Yeah,
That's
we
great
don't
for
need.
consumers that that's going to change.
Yeah,
But there's a lot about this settlement that's a little bit of annoying, but
yeah. I
mostly the
digress.
media coverage around
The media coverage is
it.
ridiculous. It's so stupid. But anyway, anyway,
So
anyway.
I'll tell my career change story.
Yeah, let's do it.
I got into an industry that I said I would never get into. That was the most comical thing about this. I always said, like, the one thing I'll never do is sell insurance, because my dad did and he was miserable.
Mm,
And, wouldn't you know, the first job that approached me out of college was an insurance company. And they had a package that was really hard to say no to at, 24 years old and just graduating college, and the opportunity to make money was really crazy, and the benefits. And so I ended up selling insurance, and for a long time it was really good and I was thriving. And then I got sick. I got diagnosed with the kidney disease a couple years into it, and I was like at the height of the career. Like, I had been picked from this group of young marketers, and I was going to this, like, for the best of the best to come give upper management feedback on what's happening in the field. And, like, I was on the path to promotion and moving up in the company. And then I literally had to cancel because the day before I was supposed to go to that meeting, I was diagnosed with kidney disease, found out I was pregnant. Like, my life kind of flipped upside down. I had a manager that was really supportive during that time, and the company was patient with me while I figured it all out. I ended up going on disability leave. They couldn't tell me no in
right.
California. Like, there was nothing they could do at that point. Came back to work, got well, performed again at a high level, then started having the kids. And I would do really well in the months that I was there, but I would take 4 months ish off every other year while I was having
Yeah,
babies. And
yeah.
the company got very impatient with me in that period of time, and management did not hide it. And
Mm,
it became a very toxic workplace for me. And there was no family life balance. They wanted
hmm.
it. So their motto was faith, family, and then the name of the company. That was the order in which you were to prioritize your life. And I can say that that was bullshit.
Yeah,
And they wanted company and then whatever else.
yeah,
So, and, like, the management team, you would hear them, like, when it wasn't me, when it was other people, because I was like I am now, where I'm a leader and
yeah.
I'm magnetic and I was good at encouraging people. So I was a
Hmm.
good person to have on the team,
Yeah,
even when I wasn't necessarily performing at the highest level because I was taking time off to have my babies. I still was a valued member of the team because of my dynamic that I brought.
right.
But I would hear them talk about other people that, whoever was currently on the chopping block, and you'd hear them talk about basically, like, making their life so miserable that they quit.
Oh,
And this is the management at this company, like, toxic, shitty management at this company. So I'd hear them talk about that, and then when it became my turn, like, that I was the one that I was on her radar as the weak link on the team. It like, you could feel it. It was palpable how they were trying to push you out. And I'm gonna say, fortunately, I am sick. I still, like, as high as I'm functioning at this moment, at the time, I was under a lot of stress. I was like recovering from having my children. I have several diseases
Yeah.
and I wasn't feeling well. And thankfully, for all of those reasons, I was able to go out on disability leave again and buy myself a little bit of time.
Yeah.
And my manager was like on me about it and was so rude that I was doing this. How lucky are you? I'm like, oh,
Okay.
how lucky am I that I am unwell and can
Yeah.
take a pause because my body actually needs me to. For years and years, my doctors have been saying, like, you don't have to work at the level you're working if you don't want to. Like, they would do anything for me because they saw the struggle that I physically go through, and it's not good on my body to feel that amount of stress. And I have the like there's so much. And I'm like, yeah, how lucky am I that I have this team of doctors that's willing to like write me out on leave whenever I want because they don't even think I should be working.
Yeah. That
Like,
is so
how
gross.
lucky am I? It just that was the kind of last straw. That was the night before I went out on that leave and I was not going to come back after that. It was just I can't do that anymore.
Yeah. And I wonder, and it's really interesting how, like you listen to both of our stories and there was just like a point where there is a breaking point, right? Like what in these big career changes, right? And I think we talk about not just job change, but career change when you're shifting like from a specific career. Like you went from insurance to real estate, right? And I went from I changed. I've had so many jobs, but I went from the sports medicine education based career to then a construction and design firm, and then to real estate, right? And when I made the shift from closing our construction and design business to moving, we moved across the country and whatever. There was also a point there where I was like, it was different, but similar. Our business was doing really well. It was COVID. It was very successful, but the amount of stress that I was experiencing and the lifestyle we had where my husband was working and never seeing the kids and I was working crazy and but responsible for all of our kids of X, Y, and Z again was a point in my life where I was like, this is not how I want to live. And I think that was a big revelation, I guess, is like I can decide how to design my future and how to design my life, and I don't have to settle. And I think that is just like a pivotal point in your life. And if somebody is at that point or they're so miserable in their life and they're so unhappy, I want to encourage people to just, like you said, like bet on yourself and go for it, right? Because you just are not, you don't know, or maybe you do know, like what you're capable of when you're willing to bet on yourself, right? Like those opportunities that you can create. And again, it's not going to be everybody. That's going to be really scary, and you can't just jump off the cliff without a parachute. Like you have to kind
Get
of
a plan.
put a plan together, and do it, in a very thoughtful and serious way. But I would just encourage anybody, like, if you are at a point in your career, I don't care what age you are, like if you're 20, if you're 25, if you're 40, if you're 50, and you are not living the life that you want to live, to just bet on yourself and to just figure out a plan and also find the people who can help you to do that. Because I don't know that you and I had people helping us, but there are lots of resources and people help out there now. But
Mhm.
I'm such an advocate for this. I'm such an advocate for looking at your life and saying, like, is this the life that I want to live? And if it's not, then you have the ability and the power and the responsibility to change it. Otherwise, you're responsible for your condition of being miserable, and
Well,
it doesn't,
and
yeah,
I tell Alex this, and I've seen it just float around Instagram, but it's that thing where, like, if you die, your desk will be cleaned out by the end of the week, and there's gonna be a
yeah,
new butt sitting there. Is that like your family, you are responsible for your own happiness in your own life. And if you just follow somebody else's goal and dream forever, like you're dispensable to them.
Mhm. Mhm.
And you're not dispensable to your family, and you're not dispensable to yourself. And there's also the thing, like, do you want to lay on your deathbed one day and look back and, are you going to think, I wish I would have worked more, or I wish I would have hit that manager's goal that year? Like, no,
Yeah.
you're not going to. So, in true doing this right fashion, we have tangible things that can help you with this.
Yeah.
And the first thing I'll tell you is, like, when I decided to do this or started thinking about doing this, I made a spreadsheet because
Yes,
I'm a
you
freak in the
did.
sheet.
Did.
But like, you just have to start. You just need to look at the information. You need to start collecting data. So, like, how much money am I making? How much money do I need to make? What could I
Mhm.
cut out so that I could make a change comfortably or uncomfortably? It's not going to be comfortable to make a change oftentimes.
Right.
So, that just start by collecting data and looking, but also Colleen and I have the Vision to Reality
Mhm.
course that you
Yeah.
could take to help you identify what it is you want out of your life.
Yeah.
And then we give you like tangible steps to take to move towards those visions and towards those goals. So, we have a resource available for you. We will give you information if you want it on how to access it and what to do. But it we've done this course now with a couple people live, more than a couple people, like 15, 20 people. And the feedback we've gotten on it has been tremendous. I think it's very eye-opening, and it's like a very different avenue to like identifying what it is you actually want, like very value-based and helping you really align your life with your values. And I think it's
And
been super valuable.
yeah, and I think one of the things that it does that I don't know that people take a lot of time to do is like really taking, and it doesn't take long, right? But really considering what are your personal core values and what do you envision for your life? Like, what does that look like? What does that feel like? What does that smell like? What does that, and,
Sorry.
Cheryl and Cheddar,
If you're on YouTube,
yeah,
Cheddar's taking a turn on the mic.
yeah, Cheryl and Cheddar and I are like definitely going to support any big dream that you have. And I think that it's a really great course. It's a really great opportunity to just see the possibility for yourself and to see what could be and what changes you could make or take. And it doesn't have to be huge. It doesn't have to be, if that's scary, it doesn't have to be a massive like move across the country and change your career like I did. That's scary for some people. Everybody's like, oh my God, that's so scary. How'd you do that? And I was like, whatever, it was fine. I was like, bye, I'm out. I am like not super risk adverse, but I would say it is important to just challenge yourself to look at like, is there something more? Is there something that you could change that would make you happier? That would make, and it's not necessarily, not about money. It's not about quote unquote success, but like what would make you feel fulfilled? And how do we get to that goal? And it might be entrepreneurship. It might be a career change. It might be just shifting the way that you think about what you're doing too. Like it doesn't always have to be this like earth shattering, like flipping the table type of change, right? It can be smaller things that just add to the quality and value of your life. But
Yeah, it doesn't even have to be career related.
mhm,
One of my big visions that I've defined is more about where I live and how we live and what we can make the property do for us. And that's going to in turn give us more income so that we can make, or my spouse can make, different career choices than
right.
maybe what he's making right now. I'm a person that's like, I can jump today. Like I got an idea and I'm going to go. That's just
Yeah.
who I am. I'm married to a person who is going to think about it for 4 or 5 years
Yeah, same.
and then maybe do something. And I'm
Which
going to
is
have to.
why you and I are married now, right? Because we're jumping off the cliff and they're like holding You're like the
Yeah.
parachute. It's like slowing us down
Yeah.
in the best way,
Yeah.
right?
They've got us well, no, they don't have us anchored. They'd like to have us anchored.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
they're anchored and it makes them feel comfortable.
Yeah.
So, and we're all different. We all have different levels of personality but even Alex, when I was building this course out and the workbook that went with it, and I was showing, I was so you guys, I do things that light my soul on fire. So like as I'm
Mhm.
building it, I'm so excited and I cast it up to the TV screen so everybody can see what I spent all my hours on working that day, the kids included, because I
Yeah.
think this is valuable for them to see
Yeah.
like what mommy gets excited about dorky stuff. And so I'm showing it to my whole family and Alex is like, "Oh, I really need this. I really need this." And that was like
Yes.
the
Inspire
highest
him.
compliment in the world that
Yeah.
my husband was like, "Oh, oh, he sees the value in what I do." Because when somebody sees behind the curtain, like you
Mhm.
guys get to see this really polished me. It's not that polished, you guys. He gets to see like the raw, the worst, like me on my worst days, me crumbling in
Mhm.
tears in bed, me like snapping at the kids and him because I'm exhausted.
Yeah.
I think it can be a little bit harder to like place value in someone when you see like all of it,
Sure.
I think. But he's seeing what I'm doing in this kind of like leadership development and these systems, things that I'm putting in place, and he's seeing the value in it. And that really motivates me and makes me excited because if he thinks I'm doing a good job, I must be doing a good job.
You
If
are
he's
doing
listening to me, because we all know that age old thing where like your spouse won't hear it from you. Somebody else can tell your spouse the same thing you've been telling them for a year, and then they hear it elsewhere and they're like, "Wow, did you hear that? That was really impactful." I'm like, "Yeah, motherfucker.
You're
I've been
like,
telling you
I'm
that for a
going
year."
to, yeah.
But
Yeah.
however you need to hear it, it's fine. I mean, Rachel and I have a client right now that's it's the same. We continue to tell this client like our advice on something, and she's like, "Okay, well, like, I still want to hire someone." And then we hire someone, and then they end up telling her the same thing we said, and then she accepts it.
It's so
It's like,
interesting.
okay.
And there's in the ninja selling philosophy, ninja selling is a sales book. It's a really good sales book, by the way. He talks about like who says it matters.
Mhm,
And it's so real to me and obviously to you, but like it matters who says it. And
mhm.
I think, as we're putting these courses together and the Inspire Her groups that we're creating, like it matters who says it. And we're saying it because we're doing it and we're living it and we're applying it. And we really would love to be able to help thousands of billions, quadrillions of women and men if they want to do it, to kind of live their best life and to live their dreams and to make those dreams reality and to really have a support system and a process. Like I think this is where you and I come together in such an amazing way, is that like we give the people what they need, right? Like the encouragement, the inspiration, the energy, but backed up with the systems and the steps and the actual tools. Like so often there's like inspirational speakers and you're like, oh, I'm so pumped. Now what? you know?
Yeah, you
But like,
leave with like all this Kool-Aid and like no logistical way to implement it into your life.
yeah, no recipe, right? You're like, I'm gonna go make the Kool-Aid. I'm totally in. But then you're like, how much sugar do I put in? What's the water ratio? And the workbook that Cheryl has put together, and I only slightly edited because she just needed someone to be like, oh, I put that page in there twice, like is phenomenal. And we didn't mean for this podcast to be an ad, but here we are. But you should sign up for it, and we will have it very, very
It's
soon
plug and play.
available for
One of
sale.
one of the big missions that I have and that you have in this is like plug and play. How
Hmm.
can because we're entrepreneurs, we're leaders, we're fucking busy is what it
Hmm.
comes down to. And I am always going to give somebody what I would want to receive. And
Yeah.
I want to receive the easy button. So
Yeah.
like yes, I'm super motivated by what you said and I'm so excited and I want to implement it. Give me the easy button. And
Yeah.
and so we've done it. Like you've got a workbook that's going to walk you through every step that you need to take from dreaming up your vision to your day-to-day tasks and how to achieve it. So we're really excited about it, you guys. Clearly, that's how we've ended up in this commercial.
Yeah, and welcome to our infomercial.
Mm-hmm.
But anyway, I just think, like, I guess I will wrap it up, and we'll wrap it up just by saying, like, if you are unhappy or you are not, quote unquote, where you thought you were going to be at this time in your life, or you feel stuck, there is a way out and there is the opportunity for change. And it is scary, but the life that you get to live on the other side of that little bit of fear is phenomenal.
Mm-hmm. I agree. Well, Colleen, you've been such a great guest. Where can people find you?
You can follow me at Colleen Hungerford on Instagram and Inspire Her Collective National.
National. I think we'll put it in the show notes. We are expanding our Inspire Her Collective groups.
Mm-hmm.
We are going to expand into different geographic regions. So if you're interested in hearing what that's about, reach out to us and we can do a little bit of a discovery call with you so you can see what it might be like to create your own incredible Inspire Her Collective group where you are. And that's all, I think. Thank you for coming. Keep doing it right, you guys. And then when you realize you might not be doing it right, just change and it's fine. Totally. You're fine. We're fine. Everybody's fine. All right. Love you guys. Bye.
Bye.
That's a wrap. Thank you for joining us on this journey of laughter, life, and growth.
And remember, you're not alone on this path to success. We're right here with you every step of the way.
Please remember to hit that subscribe button so you never miss an episode. And if you found value in today's conversation, we'd be thrilled if you would leave us a review on your favorite platform. Your feedback means the world to us.
And don't forget to share this podcast with your friends, family, and anyone who could use a good laugh and some practical insight into navigating the challenges and triumphs of our minds, body, soul, and business.
Remember, we're doing this right.